Hey, world, what up? You know, NBA fans are really something, man. Media is really something, but sometimes I can't really blame them because as creatures of humans, we love drama. We love to jump from hot take, speculation. We don't like boredom, but due to those inconsistencies of going back and forth, there's no true barrier, there's no true structure, and there's no true consistent foundation when it comes to the perfect solution of things. So as number one, people have been going back and forth with the MVP discussion. There's been injuries, there's been big performances, and they've thrown out names every week or two. They're just changing it back and forth. And this has led to new discussion about Steph Curry potentially being the MVP or in that top three discussion for most NBA fans and media users for the past week or two due to his high performances. Now, you cannot be a two-dimensional thinker in a hot take. And we'll have a criteria and boundaries of how the media has been consistent with their MVPs, let alone how this unprecedented NBA season due to injuries is going to have to occur still to those same foundations. Now, the MVP is pretty simple. A lot of people, they can't really articulate a true definition. It's been very simple and straightforward for the past decades or so. It's a combination of the Player of the Year award for that season, and then you mix it in pretty much the MVP. Who's the most valuable player when it comes to the impact of their team and franchise? Usually, if you're a top two seed in your conference, you're the main player out there that's providing the impact in individual numbers. You're most likely going to win the MVP. Now, there's been some not fluke seasons, but unprecedented season when we saw in 2017 when Russell Westbrook had a six seed and he won the award over James Harden, who had, I believe, around a second or third seed and did not win the award. That was due to his triple doubles, a narrative that Kevin Durant left, and kind of to the circumstances of him being the Player of the Year award. Now, in 2017, Russell Westbrook was the true Player of the Year award. And when I say Player of the Year award, and since the NBA doesn't have that true award, basically each NBA season there's that player who had a breakout season. He's the top of the top. It was his season due to entertainment, due to success, storyline, and so on and so forth. That was Russell Westbrook. James Harden was not the true Player of the Year award. Now, James Harden had a really good foundational case due to the criteria to win that MVP in 2017, but they pretty much had to give the nod over to Russell Westbrook due to narrative, triple-double, and history. So leave it at that. Now within this season for the 2021 NBA season, there's been injuries, of course. Harden was in the mix. He got hurt. He's going to be out indefinitely. We don't know the timetable. Joel Embiid was hurt a couple of weeks, and then he's now back in the picture. LeBron James has been out for a month or so, so he's out of the picture. I'm not going to go too long in this introduction. Let's jump into here what these guys have to say about this, and I'll give my take a little further in.
Chris, is Magic right here?
I don't know what Magic's talking about.
You know, I'm about to let me go right here before you. Let's see. So, think Steph Curry could actually win his third career MVP this year? No. That's not the case. It will not happen whatsoever. The MVP as of right now are only between two players, and no one else is even close to them. It's either Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic. The battle of the bigs. One of these two will win the National Basketball Association's MVP of the award for 2021. I don't want to hear about this talk that Joel Embiid is disqualified because he was out for 2 to 3 weeks. Joel Embiid was giving you night in, night out performances of pure dominance, easy 30, 40-point games, and he's been averaging 30 a night this season. And nobody expected the Philadelphia 76ers to obtain the number one seed this season. Most people, like myself, I expected them to be around a fourth through a sixth seed. And that's what most people said as well. Philly came out of nowhere, especially after Ben Simmons got hurt last year's playoffs, which he didn't even play, and then they got swept by the Boston Celtics in the first round. And then they brought in Doc Rivers, who blew a 3-1 series lead with the Clippers and the Nuggets. So the Philadelphia 76ers, no one batted an eye on them. The expectations for the Denver Nuggets were much higher than it is as of right now. Denver Nuggets, the first beginning of the season, were atrocious. They lost their role players out there. You lost Jeremy Grant. You lost Plumlee. You lost Torrey Craig and another player out there as well. The beginning of the season, the Denver Nuggets were around a 10th seed or so. Then they started crawling their way up into an 8th to a 7th, and then eventually now around a 4th seed in that mix. Now, the good case for Nikola Jokic is he's had individual dominant performances 99 out like a Joel Embiid. But Embiid has been consistent having his team as a number 1 seed. Now, Nikola Jokic is rating back in that range. Now they're at a 4th seed or so. We have around 10 to 12 games left of the NBA season. So Jokic has a great stance to finish off strong. Same thing Joel Embiid. This is going to go pretty much 50-50. It's going to be up in the air, but it looks like the media as of right now is on the Nikola Jokic train as it is. So if we're looking between Nikola Jokic and Embiid, it is neck and neck. I still have Embiid over Jokic. If I'm going to have to do this by percentages, I'll probably go around 58% to Embiid, and then the other 42 on the tipping scale to Jokic. If Jokic can have his performances for the next 5 to 10 games and get wins and be at least a 4 seed, then I may have to tip my hat off to Nikola Jokic, but I'm not ready as of yet. Steph Curry is irrelevant within this conversation. Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors are a 9th seed in the West with a 29-30 record. And listen, you're not going to win an MVP when you're not even the playoff discussion and you're not even the top 8 standing. So that's irrelevant.
With all due respect to the greatest point guard in history, if by being in the conversation, then we're saying Steph's in that, sure, okay, be in the conversation. But legitimate chance right now of winning the MVP? No way. Not as the 9th seed. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Like Rob Parker says, no way, no how. You're not going to be a 9 seed and you're not going to win the MVP, especially when you have Jokic and Embiid with historic seasons to begin with. This is a 2-man race. Harden's been hurt. LeBron's been hurt, so they're pretty much going to be disqualified as it is. I don't want to hear about this Embiid's been out 2 to 3 weeks and he's disqualified. No. Embiid has been the Player of the Year award. Now, since he's been hurt, Jokic has been creeping up and being consistent. So those two are pretty much the Player of the Year awards as of right now due to my criteria. That's why it is as close as it is. Embiid has a number 1 seed. Nikola Jokic has a 4th seed. And again, the Nuggets have underperformed this season. The 76ers with Embiid have always been consistent and they've raised our expectations. The Nuggets are kind of crawling their way up. Now, Jokic does have a good scenario because Jamal Murray is out for the season. So this is pretty much going to heighten his case if he can be consistent, pull up these numbers, and pull up some wins. But for Steph Curry, I fully expect the Golden State Warriors to be in the play-in tournament. They're not going to reach a 6th seed or higher, so he's out of the picture. Listen, Steph Curry has been amazing these past couple of games. This season, Steph Curry is averaging around 31 points a night on 49% shooting and 43% shooting from three-point range. I mean, for the past couple games, he's had 49 points against the Sixers, 47 points against the Celtics, 33 points, 42, 53, 38, 32, 41, 37. These past 10 games or so have been historic on Steph Curry's side, but again, too little, too late, and they're not even in the playoffs. I mean, if you're pulling up these numbers, kudos to you, but I'm not going to grant you the MVP just because of that. You got to get wins out there.
The only way Steph can really get in this conversation is if he keeps playing this way the rest of the season. So basically averaging 40 over the rest of the season, and they somehow get up to the 5th seed right behind Denver. Or maybe Denver falls to 5th and Steph gets Golden State to 6th and they're close. Maybe then. But no way is the 9th seed. Right now I got Nikola Jokic. He's 26 points a game, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, 40% shooting from 3, leads the league in PER. Denver is the 4th seed. They won 3 straight without Jamal Murray. And Jokic has played every single game. So I'm going with him right now. Look, Steph is on fire. He's the greatest shooter of all time. He's the greatest small player of all time. He's playing phenomenal. But Michael Jordan averaged 37 points a game one year, didn't win MVP. Kobe Bryant averaged 35.
Oh, MJ, I believe that was 1987, his 3rd season or so. He got second to Magic Johnson, but he had a 40-42 record. They had an 8th seed. There's no way they're going to give Michael Jordan the MVP then. I believe Magic Johnson won that award then. But if you're averaging 37 a game, and if you're either a 6 seed or below or not in the playoffs, you're not going to win the MVP. I believe that happened to Kobe Bryant in what year was it? I think it was 2006, 2005, somewhere in that range.
5 points, scored 81 one night, 62 another night, 6 games of 50 or more points that season, and finished 4th in MVP voting because they were the 7th seed, which is better than Golden State is right now. James Harden averaged 36 and more assists and rebounds than Steph's average. Didn't win MVP. So, no, winning counts. Winning is important. It's not the only thing, but winning counts in this voting, and they just haven't won enough.
And again, player of the year, who's been consistent? It's been Joel Embiid, number 1 for me, then Jokic 2. Because Jokic did have individual statistics of having 40-point games, 50-point games, but the Nuggets were struggling and losing the beginning of the season. Joel Embiid and the Sixers have been consistent all season at a number 1 seed, which came out of nowhere. Now, he's been hurt around 2 to 3 weeks, but I'm not going to knock him all for that. He's been right when he came back from injury, he pulled up 40-point performances and still dominating at a number 1 seed. So as of right now, that's why it's neck and neck due to Embiid's injuries and Nikola Jokic's team downfall at the beginning of the season. So that's why I'm kind of putting that 50-50, crossing that off. Now what I'm evaluating is the rest. What seedings are they? What's their stats? And their impact. And that's why I have around Joel Embiid 58% of the Tippin scale, and then the other 42% to Jokic. You know, it may be a little closer, maybe 55-45 for me, somewhere in there. But this next 2 to 3 weeks is really going to determine, who's going to take off. This resembles, again, like the 2017 NBA season when you had Russ and Harden, because during this time period, the last 3 weeks, I still had James Harden as my MVP. But then Russell Westbrook, the last 2 to 3 weeks, he went ballistic. He hit a game winner over the Nuggets, pretty much that half-court bank miracle shot 3. Just continued on his triple-double rampage, winning games, highlight after highlight. I mean, you got to give your hat off to him. That's why Russell Westbrook, he squeaked off the MVP in my books at the very end of that season. The last 2 weeks of that season, 2017, I flipped Harden to Russell Westbrook, but very slightly. But again, it's MVP and the Player of the Year award. And the last 10 to 20 MVPs have been very consistent. There has been none, not bust, but there's no rigness on that. Media has been very consistent when you have around, I think it was around 50 to 70 media voters that vote. They're going to be consistent. As of right now, they're trending more towards Nikola Jokic, but as of right now, I do have Joel Embiid. Let's see these next 2 to 3 weeks. Who's going to take off in that range?
Go ahead, Skip.
Well, I thought you were going to go.
Because about me, okay,
all right, I'll
Chris
go.
echoed everything I said.
Okay, so that makes you right.
you go echo everything I said, too.
Yes.
Okay, to Chris's point, there are 14 games remaining.
14.
We have just seen Steph Curry produce the hottest shooting streak in the history of professional basketball. There's never been anything like what he just did for 6 games, or if you want to go 10 games through the month of April, because no one has shot from this distance, this accurately, this consistently for this span of games. But obviously, we can't be the phrase I think I invented back in.
And I'm going to let him finish. I got to jump in real quick. But Steph Curry should have had this mentality at the beginning of the season. He did not have this mentality at the beginning of the season. He's been finally having this mentality for the last month or so. If he had this mentality and stats at the beginning of this season, the Warriors probably would have been around a 6 or 7 seed as of right now. And he would have had a way better case. But it's going to be too little too late for me.
Old pizza days, prisoner of moment. We can't be prisoner of April. But we could be prisoner of April and May because, to Chris's point, if you just keep on keeping on, at some point, Shannon and I are going to have to come in here some morning and sit back and say, well, I think we got to start having this conversation.
It would help if he got into the playoffs.
It would help. And yet, Dame is out now in Portland with a hamstring. I think everybody's pulled their hamstring. I don't know. Maybe everybody's just on ice waiting for the playoffs to start. But the point is, the hardest game they had left was the Golden State was the one they just played. So could they win out? It's possible they could win out. They're on such a roll right now. If Steph stayed on this roll and they won out, and to Chris's point, you vault up to at least the 6th seed, you replace Portland as a 6th seed, yeah, I think we'd have to have this conversation because, I don't know, maybe Jokic is going to be on ice here for a few games because they're going to need to start resting him. Maybe Embiid starts resting for the rest of their games. I don't know. It's between those two. I have Embiid slightly ahead, but to Chris's point, Jokic was so huge in double overtime last night.
He was a monster.
He edged ahead in PER for the year. Embiid is so incredible from the free throw line. He is simply the greatest 7-foot or taller free throw shooter we've ever seen in the history of this league, proving it yet again last night. He shot the most free throws in the league. He's making 86% of his free throws. That's off the charts. That's in Steph territory from 3, what he's doing from the free throw line at his height and size. But the point is that I need to see more because if we look at body of work pre-April 1st, man, Steph had played 40 games before April, and he was averaging 40.9% from 3. That was on pace to be his worst three-point shooting year of his career. So you can't give me MVP off that. So now he caught fire, and he's all the way up to 43.1. Well, it's not even his career average, which is 43.4. Right now, he ranks 13th in three-point shooting in the league. Well, that's not very good because if we're talking MVP, you're looking at Joe Ingles at 49% and Marcus Morris is at 48.1 and Joe Harris, you can just shoot the lights out, 47.7. So there are a lot of shooters to this moment who are shooting better for the year than Steph did. So, I'm sorry, but I will give you greatest hot stretch of shooting we've ever seen, but I can't give you MVP yet.
Embiid and Jokic are going to be consistent. Even if they play 70% of what they usually do, they're still going to be top 2 in the MVP race. Steph Curry, there's literally nothing he can do to win the award. I mean, if he wins out the next 14 games, and if they pull up, where are they at? They're 29-30. Let's see here. They're around 9 games behind the Denver Nuggets. So even if the Warriors do win out the rest of their games, I mean, if anything, you could finish as a 5th seed. But, I mean, if Jokic and the crew are still a 4th seed and better, Jokic is still going to be winning that award or Embiid. So nothing Steph Curry can do. Too little, too late on that side. And if anything, listen, this is a 2-man race. So I'm not going to throw... Listen, you can throw some candidates out there like Damian Lillard, James Harden, players like that, or maybe even Chris Paul. Some people are throwing him some love, but they're not in the same race as Embiid and Jokic. It's a 2-man race on a mountain. Everyone else is down there looking up. So this is going to be a 2-man race, Jokic and Embiid, and everyone's got to throw some love because they've pretty much dismantled, especially the media has been dismissing, not even bringing up Donovan Mitchell of the Utah Jazz, man. I mean, Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz, this is his career best numbers of 26 points a game on 38% shooting on 3-point, and then you're shooting around 44% from field goal range. Not only that, but the Utah Jazz, most people expect them to finish around a 4th seed and below. And I was being nice. They're at a number 1 seed at 44-15 record. This is the best record in basketball, guys. And Donovan Mitchell in his 4th season is leading the crew with Rudy Gobert. I mean, it baffles me how everyone's just dismissing the Utah Jazz and Donovan Mitchell just because he's not getting the media press out there. Donovan Mitchell, on my record as of right now, I have Embiid 1, Jokic 2, Donovan Mitchell at 3 for me. I don't care if you guys think that's blasphemous, anything like that. Donovan Mitchell is leading his team to a 44-15 record, best in basketball in his 4th season. How is he not top 3 in MVP? It baffles me. It's baffled me. It's crazy. People are throwing Damian Lillard and Giannis over Donovan Mitchell. No. Giannis and the Bucks have underperformed this season heavily. Even though they're at a 3rd seed, 35-22, the East records are not good as it is. And the Milwaukee Bucks beginning of the season were disappointing. They were not on that level as of 2019-2020. So I'm not going to grant that for Giannis. And Giannis in 2019-2020 was a way better player than he was as of right now. The Portland Trailblazers are at a 6 seed with Damian Lillard at a 32-25 record. I will show him some love since CJ McCollum, Nurkic, they were hurt. But they're at a 6 seed right now. I'm gonna have to put Embiid 1, Jokic 2, and then Donovan Mitchell 3. Donovan Mitchell just needs to have some more career nights or more season nights out there because past couple games, I mean, he's giving you 22 points, 22, 42 points, 42 points, 37, 41 points. He's showing up in some big games in the NBA as of right now. So, it's a shame that Donovan Mitchell is not, I've seen the list of what people are throwing out. No one's throwing Donovan Mitchell in their top 5, which is disrespectful as it is. In the beginning of this video, like I said, you need structure, you need boundaries out there. And a lot of NBA fans, NBA cats on social media, they're two-dimensional hot take fans out here, fanboys. So it is what it is.
That's what I agree with everything you guys said. Like I said, and sometimes we get caught up because the ooh and ah factor is so great. The way he's dancing, pulling up, they're coming with the double team. He sees the double team. He lets it go from 30 before he gets there, Skip, and he swishes it. So down the stretch, 20 points. He didn't miss from 3. He missed the one free throw that would have given him 50, Chris. He's been spectacular. But damn, doesn't it have to mean something to win the ball games?
They're a 500 team
right
now.
Yeah, 500 team. 500. And, the biggest mistake.
Wins do make sense, and wins are in the huge equation. If wins were not in the equation for MVP, then Tracy McGrady should have multiple MVP awards. Not anyone, but most players who can go out to a poverty franchise, have the green light, pull up 37 a game, and not win as much, they're not going to win the MVP. So I don't want to hear how impressive that is. If you can pull those same stats and if you can win ball games around top 4 seed in your conference, then you'll be in huge considerations for MVP then.
Baseball made is when they gave the MVP to Andre Dawson on a dead last team. Skip it. How good is his numbers? I think he was the 4th seed that year.
I think they were even lower. Look, since media started voting for the award in 1981, only twice, I believe, has anybody outside the top 3 seeds won the award. That was Moses Malone in 81 or 82, right?
And then Russell Westbrook.
When media started voting. Right. And then Russell, because he averaged a triple-double. Had we known he was going to average a triple-double every other year, maybe he wouldn't have won either. But it was historical, so you had to give it to him. But I think, too, you brought up baseball, Shannon. Baseball's different.
Yeah. But if he were to somehow, by hook or crook, get to the 4th or the 5th seed, let's have a conversation. But I've had Nikola Jokic since everybody went down as the number 1. If my MVP, if I had one, he would be my guy, and he's done nothing to disappoint me since Jamal Murray.
I won't get mad at you if you have Jokic as number 1 as of right now. Again, it's very close for me on an Embiid and Jokic. I still have Embiid as of right now. Very close within that range. Even if Steph Curry gets a 4th or 5th seed, he's not going to MVP. Jokic and Embiid have better cases the beginning of the season to now. So this is a 2-man race. Everything else is just kind of irrelevant. Nothing to dive too deep into. But right now, Embiid, let's see how Jokic and the crew finishes off, especially with Jamal Murray hurt. They've won the last 3 games, so that's a good sign. And Jokic had a huge performance. So we'll go from there. But especially throw and show some love to Donovan Mitchell. I mean, it's disrespectful, guys, but on that end, we'll end it off.